Okay, reaction video. This is from Lost in the Pond. 5 ways British American movie theaters are very different. Please click like, share, and subscribe for me and for him as well. I'm curious about this. I go to the movies quite a bit in the United States. I've never been to a British movie theater, so I've never been to an English movie theater, England before, or any part of Great Britain. So I'm kind of curious to see what he has to say about this. Okay. 5 ways British and American movie theaters are very different.
In Britain, I always got the sense that we perceived this American reaction to blockbuster films as quite unusual because the actors aren't actually there to receive the applause. Hello, I'm Lawrence, and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to movie theaters/cinemas.
Yeah, we call them movie theaters, and I think they call them cinemas over in England. Correct me if I'm wrong.
We'll get onto terminology later.
Now, we do sometimes refer to them as cinemas, but most of the places, let's say, let's go to the movies, let's go to the movie theater. Sometimes we say, let's go to the flicks, but, you know.
But as somebody who's been frequenting cinemas since 1987, when I went to see both Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, and Masters of the
I feel so bad for you for having to see those two movies.
Universe, 2 films criminally overlooked by the Academy, I've had my...
Yes, criminally overlooked.
Fair share of experience.
They were terrible.
Of cinemas in both Britain and America. And while cinema complexes in both countries do have things in common, such as the smell of popcorn and human there are also some subtle and not so subtle differences. Now, cinemas, of course, have taken something of a hit during the COVID-19 pandemic, but in the event that reports of their death are exaggerated, here are epic ways that British and American movie theatres are very different. I suppose the first difference that I noticed when it comes to cinemas was that some of the cinema chains that I was used to in Britain either don't exist in the United States or just aren't as prominent. Back home, if you're looking for a multiplex cinema, you'll want to Google one of the big 3: Cineworld, View Cinemas, and Odeon.
Yeah, we don't have, I don't know if we have any of those in the United States. I could be wrong. It's either AMC, now around me it's Marcus Cinema or Rave Cinema. And there's probably a few more that I've never heard of before because this is a big country.
In the United States, the big 3 are completely and utterly a little bit different. Those are Cinemark Theatres, Regal Cinemas, and the really big one, AMC, which happens to own Odeon in the United Kingdom. Personally, as somebody who doesn't choose his cinemas by brand name, but rather by whether they're showing the film that I want to watch, I don't really have a preference either way.
Same with me. I don't care what cinema I go to, what movie theater I go to see the movie.
But I know that humans, being humans, probably do have strong feelings on this, so let me know in the comments below. One thing I can definitely say about both British and American cinemas is that they both do pretty well about showing the other country's films. So for example, as a kid, I went to see Back to the Future 2, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Police Academy 6, while in America I and many other people went to see the likes of Philomena, The King's Speech, Bridget Jones 3, Shut Up. But there's one thing, for various reasons or another, that often gets changed: the title of the film.
Yeah, that is true. Sometimes they change the titles of the film.
Road, I do intend to do what Americans call a deeper dive into this, but to whet your appetite, here's a brief list of films that were released under different names in Britain and America. 2017's Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, was rebranded in the UK as Pirates of the Caribbean, Salazar's
And I did not know that.
Revenge. On the other hand, the 2001 British-made film, The 51st State, was released in the United States as Formula 51, owing to the perception that the original title would somehow be offensive to American audiences.
And I can, at least from this American, I wouldn't have been offended if they called it the 51st State.
Audiences, because in this context, the expression 51st State refers to America's perceived dominance over Britain. And
I don't think I'm better than anybody from Britain for all intents and purposes. I don't think my country's any better than Britain. My favorite sport team plays over in Britain, so.
You know, from experience, that's how most Americans see our relationship, so why on earth did they change it? One that's quite personal to me, having lived in the US state.
Yeah, Hoosiers, which is about Indiana basketball.
Of Indiana is the film Hoosiers. But because the term Hoosiers is a demonym for people from Indiana and is little known outside of the United States, this feel-good sports film was renamed Best Shot in the...
Best Shot? I don't... since, well, it takes place in India. I don't know if even the term Hoosiers is even used in the entire movie. I could be wrong, but I don't remember them saying Hoosiers in the movie. But it's about Indiana basketball, and anybody who grew up in the United States. I'm in Ohio, which is the next state over. Indiana's to the west of Ohio. I know I've heard the term Hoosier before. The Indiana Hoosiers basketball team. My cousin went to Indiana, and so I best shot. Okay.
The United Kingdom. And I only discovered recently that a film that was released when I was a kid called Bigfoot and the Hendersons
Harry and the Hendersons
was released under the slightly different name of Harry and the Hendersons in the United States. Now, there are an absolute boatload of different title variations, so if you would like to learn more about these, subscribe to my channel so that you get notified when I begin my deeper dive.
Now, this is what I'm curious about in England, snacks. Now, you said they have smell of popcorn. What do they have? Now, we have popcorn, we have candy, we have nachos, we have ices, we have hot dogs, we have pizza, in fact, you can even go to a movie theater, the AMC chain you mentioned there, you can sit there and you can actually place an order and they'll bring you your dinner while you're watching your movie. So I don't know if you guys have anything like that over there. I'm sure you probably do, but we'll see.
And then, of course, there's the very important question of cinema snacks. And for Americans visiting Britain, don't worry, we do popcorn, hot dogs and soft drinks, although probably at a smaller size. Some cinemas will also allow alcoholic beverages.
Yeah, you can also, there's actually one of the movie theaters close by to me actually has what looks like a bar.
I suppose the major difference that really stood out to me was the type of candy and or sweets, as well as pre-packaged savoury snacks that you can pick up at concessions.
Concession stand or the snack bar.
In America, you're more likely to find Doritos than you are KP Crisps. And when it comes to chocolate snacks, both countries might do M&Ms. But Britain also rolls out the Maltesers and various Cadbury products. Whereas the US has a line of candy that I'd never heard of before moving to the United States. So things like Milk Duds, Raisinets, Whoppers, Bunch of Crunch, and of course, Reese's Pieces.
Now, applause. Every now and then you'll hear an applause in the American movie theater. I'm interested to see what they'd have over in England.
Now, one thing that separates British moviegoers from their American counterparts is the way they show their appreciation for a rousing major blockbuster. In Britain, if we love the film, we don't really do anything except sit there in silence with an upper lip that remains as stiff as the acting in the Twilight Saga. We walk out and then we talk about the film in glowing terms.
I see. In America, now, if you're going to say that Americans will clap or show applause at the end of a movie, that doesn't happen very often that I've seen. Like I've seen big time blockbusters where it had a rousing ending, but nobody's ever clapped. But I've seen them clap during a movie, like if they see something amazing that they hadn't seen before, they like a lot. But generally, at the end of the movie, I don't hear a lot of applause. But sometimes it does happen. I won't say it's never happened before.
In America, it can be different. I remember at the end of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, a film that is universally loved and isn't divisive whatsoever. Everybody in this Indianapolis cinema just stood up and applauded and cheered like they were at a baseball game. I tell you.
Now, when I saw The Force Awakens, nobody stood up and cheered. In fact, a lot of people just walked out, and if I overheard a few people said it wasn't as good as they thought it was going to be, and had other thoughts about it. Now, that was up in Cleveland where I took my nephew to go see this one. So I didn't hear anybody applause like he did.
Take that back. Nobody cheers at a baseball game. They just, talk to each other and drink.
I don't go to baseball games. They do sometimes cheer at a baseball game whenever they wake up to see what's going on.
Yeah. Now, I should clarify, this reaction isn't normal for most movies, right? You're not going to see a whole room of people stand up and applaud the King's Speech, although I did because, Britain. You get 'em, George. But the big blockbusters with ultra-intense fan bases do tend to bring out that reaction. In Britain, I always got the sense that we perceived this American reaction to blockbuster films as quite unusual because the actors aren't actually there to receive the applause. And it
Yeah, I would agree with that.
gets me wondering, right? At the end of my videos, do Americans clap? Don't answer that. I don't want to know either way. And we can hardly talk about the differences between British and American movie theatres without discussing the words that each...
Yeah, like chips and fries or chips and crisps and that sort of thing.
country uses to navigate it. Firstly, there's the building itself. Throughout this video, you've heard me interchangeably use the words movie theatre and cinema. Cinema perhaps being the most prominent word for this in the United Kingdom. While in the United States, where cinema is used to a lesser extent, movie theatre is more common. It's worth noting in this case that theatre is famously spelled differently from how it would be in Britain, where we've retained the old French spelling. However, even though I knew this difference when moving to America, I was surprised to find that America often retains the old French spelling when referring to the type of theatre that has a stage with actors who can appreciate your applause. Of course, Americans might also simply say, "We went to the movies."
Yeah, they'll say the movies, the flicks. Sometimes I've heard that used before. I'm trying to think what else they've said. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think when I was young, somebody said, "Let's go to the pictures," but that was maybe heard once or twice. The pictures.
And for me, an equivalent of this in Britain is when we say, "We went to the pictures."
Okay.
Because, a movie is just moving pictures. Either way, there's a pretty good reason that Brits are less likely to say the movies or movie theatre. And that's because we're less likely to use the word movie itself. Instead, we often refer to a movie as a film, or less commonly, a flick. And there are two other cinema-related words.
Wow, it seems like I'm saying a lot of things that the English would say than what Americans would say.
That are less commonly used these days, but were all the rage when I was a kid. The first is a word to describe a break midway through a film, in which, you head to the loo or pick up extra refreshments.
Of course, we don't call it the loo, but we call it the bathroom. But occasionally you have, on some movies, not a lot, keep in mind, I have gone to the movie theaters to see something like Lawrence of Arabia when they re-released it, or Ben-Hur, and they call it an intermission.
Ideally not at the same time. In Britain, we always called this the interval, whereas in America it's known as the intermission. And time was when cinema going was so popular that people would line up down the streets just to get in the building.
You don't have to do that anymore because most theaters, like if you have a big blockbuster coming out, it's like about 25 different theaters, movie theaters showing it at every hour on the half hour. So 1:30, 2 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock. You rarely see that anymore.
In the north of England, a common refrain for this was, "We had to queue up around the corner." Whereas in America, it might be something like, "The line ran for 3 blocks." Contrary to popular belief, by the way, this likely didn't inform the origin of the word blockbuster, which seems to have derived from the name of an aerial bomb capable of destroying whole blocks of buildings. And, maybe that gives rise to why people describe things like Superman 4: The Quest for Peace as a box office bomb.
Yeah, it really wasn't very good. It was terrible.
That's it for this episode. Let me know in the comments below if you frequented cinemas in either countries and what your thoughts were. I'm Lawrence Brown. You can follow me on Twitter at LostInThePondUS. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that my videos don't get lost in the pond.
Yeah, subscribe, share, and like for Lawrence and Lost in the Pond. And please like, share, and subscribe for me as well. This was interesting. Like I said, I found this fascinating. I've never been to the movies or to the cinema over in England before. And like I said, I assume it's not that dissimilar, at least in terms of walking in, paying for a ticket, getting your snacks, and sitting down and watching a movie. You may react differently to some of the movies that are available, but this was interesting. Thanks for watching this. Please, again, click like, share, subscribe, and I'll do more of these. And thank you very much for watching. Have a good rest of your day.